What is up, everybody? I hope you're having a good day. I wanted to make a quick instructional video of helping you find information out about a 401k. I know I've talked a little bit about the 5500, and if you're curious about either an old 401k that you've had or one, if you're a prospecting advisor trying to find out information, you probably know this, but I thought it'd be useful just for those that are new to the industry or just advisors in general that have not understood where to get this and they maybe just Google a plan. There's a lot more detail, and it's better to go to the source, and that's the actual Department of Labor's website. So I'm going to jump here on my screen and show you step by step how you can find really any 401k plan. Sometimes the name can be tricky to find, and the bigger the plan, oftentimes a little more complex, but typically these 5500s are due in July. So the end of July, these all get turned in. So they're kind of delayed. So the ones we have are from 2019. They were actually submitted. What that means is they're for the year 2018 if they're on a calendar year. So they're a little bit behind. So what's great is when we get past July, and then if they get extended into October, which they can do, especially if they have an audit plan, the data is a little bit still outdated. But you can kind of get enough information, know where they are and where they're heading and where their expenses are and kind of the whole situation they have in place. There's a lot of details if they're over 120 employees and need an audit. If they're under the 120, it's usually 3 pages and you have very limited information other than assets and people. So expenses are kind of over the map. But let's dive in. I'll show you what I mean. So actually, I'm going to go, you come here and you go 5500 search and Google that. It is going to pull up the first page there, the EFAST Department of Labor.gov site. And here, it's already pre-filled because that's who I was going to search. You can do it by the sponsor name, which is the company name, or the plan name. You can literally change the plan name to whatever you want if you're a plan administrator. Or if you have a tax ID, I often just search by the sponsor name. So let's look up Shields, one of my favorite stores. They're pretty big, and so this will have a lot of information. So there's a few things. They have to file if they have a stock ownership plan. We're not worried about that today. We're going to look at the 401k. So you can see submitted 10/15. So they extended into October. It's for the end of plan year 2018. So you click on this. This is that tax ID. So sometimes if the plan went through a change, what you can do is take this tax ID, and you can't really copy it. You have to write it down and then go back to that original search page, and you can enter in the tax ID and it will pull up everything under that tax ID. So if they went through kind of a name change, that's one way, one little trick that I found to find old plans that may or may not pop up. So let's pull it up. So what it is, I downloaded that. It's a large document, pulls up a PDF. So I'm going to open it here so you can see what I'm looking at. This is really helpful information. You can see right off the bat, if we can get to load, a lot of stuff. You know the details are on a plan year. You know they're a single employer plan, so it's not a multiple employer plan. If it was, it would check that box. You can see when it started. So this is back in 2006 when they started it. Here's that tax ID again. Here's a phone number and the person that signed. Now the person that signed may or may not be a trustee on the plan. It could just be the HR person. It could be the CFO. It could be an owner. It can be a lot of different people. So it's important to know that. And this is really where when you get people calling you about getting you qualified leads, they're going to the 5500 list. They're extracting this data, and they're calling that number, just so you know that that's what's going on. So you can see the home address where they're actually based out of, so you can confirm. This is important if you get companies that have similar names. You can confirm the address as this is the right one you're looking for. There's only one big shield, so that I got that right. This page tells you a lot about how big the plan is by a participant size. You've got number of participants right here active at the beginning of the year and at the end of the year. So they went down a little. They had a few people retire or separate or quit or whatever. So you will typically, as an advisor, want to go off of this number, this active at the end of the plan year. I tend to use that. There's 3 things, again, that you're going to need to extract from a 5500 for a bid. And that's the number of participants, the assets in the plan, and the flow or the amount of contributions per year. So you can get all that from the 5500 pretty easily. So you scroll in here. These codes are important. They'll tell you different things. And if you Google 5,500 instructions, it'll tell you exactly what all these mean. And some of them, like, for example, it could be auto enrollment. It could be a couple different things, but that can be useful to know plan design. And a lot of times that's something you can come in and kind of plant some seeds. You never want to come into a plan, meet with an HR director or a CFO and immediately go attacking on the problems in the plan. Because you could offend them really easy because they're the ones that put it in place. So be cautious of that. But you can plant some seeds saying, oh, I notice you have auto enroll or you don't have auto enroll. Is that something you've talked about? Leave it as a good thing that you're bringing value to talk about. So then I would scroll down and I would get to where we have these service providers. So theirs is interesting because they've got Vanguard in there. They've got Columbia. So this is really a list of the mutual funds, it looks like, that are providing investments to the 401k. And so you want to keep scrolling down and you can see Bell Bank is somewhat involved as a service provider. And it's not exactly clear on how they're involved. That maybe they're the advisor. They may have some sort of relationship. So this is where you would normally see a lot of the fees if they're going to show them correctly. I will tell you, unfortunately, most 5500s are not as accurate as you would expect. And a lot of times they'll have zero fees. Like literally you pull 5500 up and it will have zero fees. And what that tells you right off the bat is that it's all wrapped into the plan and they're coming out of investments from 12B1 fees or whatever. So they're not, you can't go with this as being perfect because I don't know if 5500 that is perfect, honestly. So Bell Bank has a relationship. It shows that they're making $45,000 a year, but they also are making indirect compensation, but they put zero here. I don't like that so much. It happens all the time. If you're making indirect, why would you put yes here and it's zero? Let's figure out what that is. But scroll down and so you can get past here. This is the section. It's going to start going into the investments. So you can see you have a list here of all the different investments. So it looks like Bell Bank has put together some sort of models, some risk-based models that are getting assets put in them, and they probably are a fund of funds or a selection of funds within those models. So they've created some targeted retirements, and I don't know Bell Bank that well, so I'm not sure exactly who they are or what they do, but that's interesting to know. You can see right here, this breaks down investments even more, but we're going to go further where we can see all of it. One thing I will point out right here is income. This is a good number to look at. This shows you the flow. This is the participant amount of contributions. So $1.27 million came into the plan in 2018, and there were 44,000 in rollovers and a little bit of cash. So that tells you something there. That's helpful. And then it totals them up there. So keep scrolling down. Expenses. The only thing disclosed is that $45,000 to Bell Bank. I highly doubt that that's the only thing that's charged to this plan. There's most likely something built into it. So let's get past this. There's a lot of details here that could be useful as you're starting to get deeper into the plan. Like, for example, do you have a fidelity bond and those sort of things? It can be important to know, especially on a smaller plan. So keep scrolling. What's cool about an audited plan is you're going to get into the audit. So this is an audit that they put together for the company because it's over 120 employees. And in the audit, you can get a lot of detail. So you get past the first part that's from the auditor. It says, here's what we do and why we do it, blah, blah, blah. Then you get into assets. So this plan has $8.9 million. And scroll down even further. There is a investment income. So they lost. The end of 2018 was a dip. The market dropped significantly. This is that contribution amount, 1.2 million. So 1.3 went in. So you use that as the flow. So you use the number of, what did I say? How many participants? I forget. We can go back to that. But you can see the flow. And then you scroll down and you can see, here's those expenses. So that's really useful information. So 8.9 million with a 1 point, that's a really good flow. And then the description of the plan, this is important. Eligibility, you can see they have a 21-year and 12-month eligibility period, 1,000 hours of service, so pretty standard. Contributions, they're matching, sometimes it'll tell us our match. So it's not telling us right there. Let's see if there's anything else that mentions. So it doesn't go into specifics of their plan design. This is hit and miss. Sometimes you can get it, sometimes you don't get it. So we don't know their plan design specifically as far as what the company's matching, which that can be useful, especially going into an opportunity. So you keep scrolling down, and there's going to be some last pieces here that are important for you if you use FI360 or another tool to analyze investments, because here you go. You've got the full Bell target dates. You've got, those are CITs. We're not going to go into that right now. And then you get the mutual funds. You can see where all the assets are, and sometimes it'll give you tickers, sometimes it won't. So it doesn't look like we're going to get a ticker list here, so you would have to just put those into FI360, and they have a pretty good system. When you put these in, it's going to pop up. You may or may not have the right share class, but that's okay. You'll be able to narrow it down just enough to do a comparison, and I'll do a separate video about that, of how your 338 or your fund lineup, 321, whichever one you're doing, will compare to what they have in place. So that's always useful and always helpful. If you have further questions, let me know, but this is a great way. And if you can't find the plan inside of this when you search on the 5500 page, the good thing to do is just Google it, and it will come up. So like, let's go here and let's just Google Shields 401k. It's going to come up Shields All Sports 401k by Brightscope. Now, Brightscope is just a data scraping system, pulls it off the 5500. So I always recommend go straight to the source. It makes it kind of nice and shiny, and they give it their own score. Let's see how they score it, because those expenses are pretty low. But I don't know the funds. I haven't dug into the funds. So you can see they don't score well, and it'll tell you right off the bat why. So it's not a bad tool. I'm not trying to knock it. It's just not one that I would totally jump on board with. But yeah, the plan costs are high. There's no match currently, so they rate that. So they kind of give you some idea. Again, it's important to understand how to read the 5500, because this can be useful, and you need, if you're a 401k expert, you need to know how to read this. So hopefully that's useful. Let me know if you have further questions. Oh, I thought I was sharing my screen. There you go. This is the Brightscope. There you go. You can see that. So I just Googled it. If you Google another big plan, Brightscope could come up, and then you can at least take this right here, and that's what you'd be able to put into the 5500 search, and it would pull it right up. So if you can't find the company in here, Google it, take the Brightscope name and put it in here to get the full details, and direct from the source, from the actual document they submitted. All right. Hope that's helpful. Let me know. Hit me up, Jake at 401jake.com, or just message me below. Have a great day.